going to shock the world here.
I'm calling for an open tryout. If anyone is watching this, I'm calling for an open tryout. I got a year of eligibility left.
Might have some.
Anthony, where is home for you?
Home is Medland.
That's wrong.
All right, I hear what you're saying, but I'm just have to disagree.
While we were in class this morning, I was watching his mixtape, and this guy catches and shoots from anywhere.
Are you ready for some debate? Because Bobcat Breakdown starts right now.
To Bobcat Breakdown. I'm your host, Casey Nadelka, joined alongside analysts Andrew Reynolds and David Murr, who's here for his final show as a senior. David, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, Casey. Obviously, lots to talk about with Quinnipiac men's ice hockey in the Providence Regional and men's women's lacrosse coming together for MAC play. It's going to be a good show tonight.
Yeah, David, I'm wearing 2 pins tonight. One of them is the Bobcat pin you gave me at the beginning of the year. I had to wear it. I was on desk with you, final show, had to do it in your honor, and then we also got the ECAC pin. Had a really good season for the ECAC, and I'm excited to talk with hockey with you tonight.
Let's do it.
All right, we have a very special episode tonight, as our own QBS and broadcasters will be helping me out with the questions. Before each analyst answers, we'll be playing a clip from a relevant game call in order to help elaborate on the question. Let's take a listen to our first clip.
Boston College on the attack. The shot deflected on Duplessis. The rebound still loose, and they score! It's Malone! Boston College has no Sunday scaries no more. They're going to the NCAA Frozen Four, and they're going to St. Paul, Minnesota. Mass confusion at the front of the net, and Boston College slaying the defending champions in Quinnipiac.
The men's ice hockey team had a tense weekend, beating Wisconsin in the regional semifinals before falling to Boston College in the finals. What do you guys feel was the reason for the Bobcats' early exit from the tournament? Let's start with Andrew.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. It's the 100% the penalties. The penalties were an absolute killer for the Bobcats this year. And, you look at the Boston College game where the Boston College is one of the top power plays in the country, top offense in the country. They're the number one team in the country for a reason. And for the Bobcats to take penalties was an absolute killer for them. They had 5 total penalty kills in the game, and Boston College was able to score on 2 of them. And 2 of those goals could have been the difference in the game. You look at Boston College. You're looking on screen right now at a potential the goal, a huge save by Duplessis there. But there were just so many opportunities for the Quinnipiac to not take these penalties. That goal, of course, the first goal that Boston College scored was on the power play. And just these penalty kills for Quinnipiac killed them in this game, and they honestly would have won this game and would be going back to their second straight Frozen Four if they didn't have to kill so many penalties.
Yeah, Reynolds, you make really good points about the penalty kill, but I can't believe I'm even saying this out loud, but I'm going to go with Colin Graff. Just to be completely honest, he's arguably the reason why the Bobcats were not functioning at full capacity. Let me go back a couple of games. Let's go to the ECAC semifinal for a second against St. Lawrence. Graff only registered 2 shots in that game. He finished -2 against Wisconsin. He didn't register a single shot on goal until overtime. He finished with just 3 shots. Then against Boston College, the lackadaisical turnover that led to the game-tying goal by Adam Minitian to force overtime. The bottom line is the Colin Graff last 3 games, 1 assist, 10 shots on goal, -2 rating. You need your stars to show up in order to beat a star-studded team like Boston College. Colin Graff was not only a no-show this weekend, but in Lake Placid. He's not the main reason they lost the game, but you can't look at his last 3 games and say that he showed up for the Bobcats when it mattered the most.
You know what's funny, David, is that when it be his future question later, we're talking about the most valuable player of the weekend for Quinnipiac. I was surprised not even see Colin Graff on one of my lists because I looked at his stats and I was like, did he even play? Because the guy did no points. And
Hobie Baker finalist. He was in the top 10. And he was a complete no-show for the last 3 games.
Top 10 Hobie Baker finalist, and he's not able to produce any offense for Quinnipiac, especially in that opening game against Wisconsin.
Okay, so let's keep this debate moving and check out our next call.
Gauthier throwing it out of the net. What a save made by Duplessis, stretching the pad out, making the save. I got to call the Providence Police Department. Duplessis robbing the Eagles so far. Graff through a screen, Wilson wide, side of the net, and they score! And it's a power play goal for Quinnipiac. Jacob Quillen double dips in the game. Quinnipiac with a 4-3 lead.
As you heard our AP Michael Singer yelling, a lot of players had great performances, but who do you think was the player of the weekend? David, you can kick this one off.
I think it's Jacob Quillen, Casey. I mean, stats don't show it in game one, but Quillen was everywhere on the ice. Against Wisconsin, he was 14 of 23 on the faceoff dot against the Badgers. Came up big on the late penalty kill in the third period. That forced overtime. In game 2 against Boston College, he was by far the best player on the ice. 2 goals on 6 shots, 14 of 25 from the circle. 28 of 48 faceoffs he won this weekend. That's over 50% of wins on the dot. He was the star of the show in Providence all weekend for the Bobcats. Even though they came up short, just those stats alone, his dominance on the faceoff circle and the 2 goals he scored against BC were so huge for the Bobcats to stay in the regional, even though they fell short in Providence.
Yeah, no. No, not at all. Jacob Quillen, great player, just signed with Toronto on an entry-level deal, making over $800,000 in 2 years, amateur contract. I mean, incredible player nonetheless. But he didn't show up in that first game, I'll be honest with you. He wasn't even on the score. Was not on the score sheet. Really, the third and fourth line showed up in that first game, and then the second line showed up in the second game. Guess who the constant was in both games? That was Vinny Duplessis. Absolute GOAT the whole entire weekend. When we came into the year, the position was uncertain. We didn't know Yanni Perez left. And we were like, oh no, who is going to be the goaltender for Quinnipiac? A lot of doubts. What are you doing? Are you serious?
You seriously think Vinny
Let
Duplessis...
me continue here. Vinny Duplessis, again,
Is this a serious
the
question?
Stop. The position was uncertain going into the year. And for the fact that Vinny Duplessis has improved game after game after game and Vinny Duplessis was incredible this weekend. His saves against Wisconsin, his saves against Boston College, and you're saying that Jacob Quillen was better than Vinny Duplessis?
Jacob Quillen had 2 goals in game 2, and he was so good on the faceoff circle. And Vinny Duplessis on that last goal, you got to play till the whistle. He didn't cover the puck. He watched it sit in front of him for 3 seconds, and by the time he recognized it, it's too late. It's in the back of your net. He is not the main reason. Again, he's not the main reason they lost the game, but on that particular play alone, when the puck is sitting in front of you, 3 feet in front of you for 5 seconds, you've got to make a play on it.
Jacob Quillen did not show up in that first game. Barely made the score sheet. And you also look at his stats for the 2 games for Vinny Duplessis. 18 saves against Wisconsin. Majority of those were scoring chances. Huge saves. Same with Boston College. 27 saves in that game. Guess how many saves he made in that first period? 15 saves. Guess how many goals they scored? 0. Gets the number 1 team in the country 0-0 at the end of the first period. You're saying that Vinny Duplessis was not the reason why Quinnipiac won that game? Boston College is one of those powerful offenses in the country, and Vinny Duplessis was the reason. Excuse me for spitting. Sorry. The reason why they won that game. 100%.
Right, calm down.
I'm sorry they lost.
This is the end of our first period, but when we come back, we'll keep the debates on the men's ice hockey team.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. With the men's ice hockey season coming to an end, there's a lot of uncertainty over players' futures in the program.
The season is done, and for many players, this is the end of their roads. Jaden Lee, CJ McGee, they've been here 5 years, nearly 6. I mean, it's been such a life experience to be able to play college hockey for 5 years, I'm sure. A national championship, they can always hang their hats on the fact that they made 3 straight regional finals. Such a run for these Bobcats.
Now, as you mentioned before, Andrew, forward Jacob Quillen signed a pro contract on Monday night with the Toronto Marlies on an amateur tryout. With Quillen already gone and the future of Lipkin and Graf uncertain, which remaining players do you think will step up to the top line?
I honestly think that you look at Zach Tucker and he's staying this year. But, I mean, I honestly think the future, I mean, when I look at the entirety of this program, the future of the program really in the top line at QU is really concerning. You look at the two names that we were talking about last year. Matt Mugno famously, York Hill boys. You have Graf, Quillen, and Graf, Lipkin, and Quillen. And then you also look at the Sherbrooke boys with Tellier and Filion. They both just transferred out. Those are some of their top 5 best offensive producers on the team. And I just think that with Graf looking to sign soon, Lipkin could go to Arizona. But I'm actually not sure if he'll end up going. But Quillen's already signed. He's already gone. But I also think that you have to look at Rand Pechtold. In my opinion, he's the greatest hockey coach in the NCAA hockey history. I think that, you look at somebody like Jerry York or Jack Parker, they're great. But when you look at what Rand Pechtold has done over the 30 years that he's been at Quinnipiac, started it from a D2 program, were absolutely nothing. And he has built a program from the ground up, national contenders every year at this point. And, by the way, who are they bringing in? They are bringing in these guys that nobody has ever heard of, and they are making them stars. Colin Graf transferred him from Union. Was he one of the top people that these recruiters were looking at? Probably not, because he went to a school like Union. I mean, Union's kind of went down on the better teams in the years, so the draft class wasn't great. But the way that Graf has just excelled through Quinnipiac is incredible. So with all that said, I'm not necessarily worried about Quinnipiac next year because we were asking the same question last year. However, a lot of those guys that we knew were going to come back are not coming back this year, and there's just so much uncertainty who's coming back.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I think that obviously there is a lot of uncertainty around the program. Jack Riggett's being added from Holy Cross already. That's a big step forward, but there's still a long way to go. Quillen's already in the NHL, having already been signed by Toronto, as you mentioned. Graf floating between NHL teams as a free agent, might look to sign on Wednesday. And I think that may be the last we've seen of Sam Lipkin. I think his emotion on Sunday, you could see it after the game, just tells me that he is going to go to Arizona. Now, as you said, Rand Pechtold, he's done a tremendous job with the portal in years past. But there's a lot more to be done with, Tellier and Filion transferring. You could look at other defensive transfers, but guys are staying. Travis Treloar is coming back. Cooper Moore's coming back. That's a huge addition on the defense. Davis Pennington's been rumored to stay. I think if he stays, that's huge for the defense. But obviously, I think you could also look at making splashes in the portal. Like, look at a guy like Matthew Wood at UConn, not a far drive down the road. If they could make a splash in the portal, that's exactly how you'd start rebuilding.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point with Matthew Wood. But Matthew Wood, I think he's going to go to a team in the NCHC or the Big Ten school.
While we're looking into the future, let's move to the net and discuss the future of the Bobcats goaltenders.
Now you have the Bobcats with just a string of goaltenders. We've gone from Petrozelli to Peretz, now to Duplessis.
You're currently a senior. What does the future of goaltender position look like for Rand Pechtold's squad?
Look, I'm not saying that Vinny Duplessis was the main reason why Quinnipiac lost, but he was Jekyll and Hyde all season. He gave you stellar performances. Obviously, you have your hands in your face now. He gave you stellar performances like at BU at Thanksgiving or last Sunday, but there's been occasions where he's laid clunkers in the past. Now, will he move on? Will he stay? I don't know. Will Noah Altman or Matej Marinov stay? There are guys that haven't seen a lot of playing time, and while Altman's been with the program forever, I don't know if he's a goalie that can necessarily win you games. For Quinnipiac to be successful moving forward, I think they have to find a goalie that is consistent, whether that's in the portal, in recruiting, but it's a must-have position for next year.
Yeah, the Quinnipiac, they're not really getting any chances in the transfer portal unless one of their goalies go out. Next year they have Dylan Silverstein coming in. He was originally a Boston College commit, withdrew in the 2021-22 season. And he went back to junior hockey. Now he's playing for Quinnipiac. So you get a previous BC commit coming into Quinnipiac. There's definitely talent there. As a national development team at one point. So you're getting a national development team level goaltender coming in, young goaltender. So I think he has a lot of promise, although we have to probably see it to believe it. Same thing happened with Yanni Pretz as well.
Yeah.
All right, so we're heading to another commercial break, but don't turn the TV off because we'll know and we'll be very sad.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
Come on, Drew, spotlight us last.
Welcome back. The women's lacrosse team had a rough start to the season, having trouble keeping their opponents out of the net.
20 now on the shot clock. It's now off to Barrett. Barrett looking to get by Butler. He does. Shot low on Oak, and Oak makes the stop.
Yeah, Oak adjusted well there. Good stick positioning there, making the save. That was a huge one for the Bobcats, looking to finish off this first half on a high
Slight
note.
technical difficulty, that was a clip from the men's game, but Lindsay Mizuko has played a majority of the games in the net for the Bobcats. But do you guys think it's time for a change?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is time to see what the women's lacrosse team has in Hadley Bosworth. I mean, Lindsay Mizuko and Rebecca Noble have not been good at all. The three goaltenders have a combined 12.89 goals against average and a .386 save percentage. Now, Hadley Bosworth did see 20 minutes of action against the Mount last Saturday, and she did play pretty well. She gave the team a spark that day. I mean, they outscored Mount St. Mary's 6-2 when Bosworth relieved Mizuko, and Bosworth stopped 3 of 5 total shots in a relief effort. With 6 games left in conference play, something has got to change before the season's over, and I do think it's time to see what Bosworth can do to try to keep the spark in this team alive.
I took a totally different way to that question, and I said no. I think the reason why is, well, David, hear me out, because you look at the way that the season started in the 2024 season is that, they lost their head coach, right? Their head coach got fired. The entirety of the season, I mean, you come into the 2023 season, you come out of it, you're 10-8, 5-3 in MAC play. Ever since TK left as the head coach, 1-7, 0-3. I've talked to some lacrosse players off the record. The entire culture has changed since TK has left, and that's not like a result of the new coaching staff. But when you come in and you get recruited by a head coach and then they leave last minute, I think that honestly, that really is the reason why women's lacrosse is really struggling right now. I mean, they have the talent. They have the majority of their attack. They have the Delman sisters. They're still there. They lost Desiree Kleberg to the transfer portal, however, but I just think this women's lacrosse team, they have the talent. I just think that the way the culture shifted because of the coaching change is really what is going on. Obviously, they did lose their goaltender, so that definitely adds to that as well. But I kind of agree with what you were saying, but I genuinely think the main reason why women's lacrosse really has struggled this year was just because of the coaching change mid-year.
And just real quick, they have 6 games left in conference play, 0-3. I had to think that goaltending effort that we saw out of Bosworth is going to be enough to give them a spark moving forward.
I agree.
All right, so now looking to the men's team, Mason Poley's side had one of the best goalies in the nation this season, Mason Oak. Starting with one of the season program best, 8-1 records, has Mason Oak been the key to their success?
I'm actually going to let David go first on this one. I got to let David. I want to hear David.
I mean, you have to love it, right? You got to love what Mason Oak's doing for Quinnipiac. He started all 9 games. His first season, he was behind the bench for 2 years. He's posted a 10 even goals against average, a .598 save percentage. Last Saturday, in a bounce-back performance against Mount St. Mary's, Oak stopped 7 shots in the second half, including 5 saves in the fourth quarter, to allow the Bobcats to come back and win the game. Now, we could talk all about the offense, and I'm going to agree with you on that if that is what you're going to talk about. The offense is scoring double-digit goals a game, which is ridiculous, and that's great. But I think the goaltending position is underrated. Mason Oak's been so good for them. He's played ridiculous in net. He sat behind a 5-year veteran in Nick DiMuccio for 2 seasons. He saw only 2 games of action, and that was in his first year. And since then, as the starter for 9 games, he's been arguably flawless.
In the same game that you guys saw in the B-roll, we talked to Mason Pulley after the game against Brown, and he said that the question coming into this year was the goaltending. And obviously Mason Oak has lived up to that. However, the offense is the key to their success this year. You look at the same core of attack. They have the same pretty much attackmen, same core defenders. You bring in a lot of their same offense they had last year, and that chemistry is there. Mason Oak, great goaltender, one of the best in the country right now. However, the Bobcats, 19 in scoring offense, 10 goals against, and scoring defense rather, and 10 goals against average per game. You also look at 11th in the country in scoring offense, 14 goals per game. 11th nationally in total goals given up, which is 90 goals. Quinnipiac, defense and offense is great. Mason Oak is great as well. However, the fact that core group is still there from last year and is the way that their season kind of turned around in comparison to last year is just incredible. And I think that, again, Mason Oak is great, but it's a team game at the end of the day.
Right, I agree with you. Just real quick, I think it's just the story around Mason Oak. He's been behind the bench. He's been riding the bench for 2 years behind Nick DiMuccio, who everybody thought as a veteran goaltender would lead them to a MAC championship. Never happened. His first season as the Bobcats net mentor. Now, again, your point about the core is good, and you're right, because double-digit goals a game is incredible. But underrated position the goaltender is, I think Mason Oak has to be looked at as potentially an underrated player on this team.
All right, so we've got one last commercial break, but when we come back, we'll be giving our final roars and hearing David's goodbye to Q30.
I know what you're thinking. I need a job. I need a new career.
Well, I've been there.
I've been there.
I've been there. I wasn't happy with what I was doing.
After high school, I didn't have a plan.
I just wanted to start working. I got laid off twice, but you gotta keep going.
You just need the right skills. Find an apprenticeship.
I found a 2-year IT program.
I found a medical course online.
I'm now a consultant in the tech space.
You have more options than you think. You can do this.
You will find something.
You will find something new.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made home ownership happen. Homeschooling yourself on loans, beefing up your credit score.
So I'm pre-approved.
You were like, yes! Sorry. Color-coding listings, ticking boxes, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. Home sweet home. You aced house hunting. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Honey, what I think you need is a socket wrench.
I played JV basketball.
I'm sorry. I don't think it looks right.
This is good, and it's all good, baby.
Is it really all good?
If you love me enough to routinely test your handyman skills, not to mention the strength of your marriage, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/therightseat to make sure I'm in the right car seat.
Bobcat Breakdown is back, and unfortunately, you're stuck with us till the end. But it's time for the best night. I'll kick us off. Something I love about college sports is the amount of support fans have for their school. They'll travel across states and time zones to watch their team play, even decades after they graduate. And while it's amazing that these young players have such a strong fan base behind them, sometimes fans forget that's exactly what players are: young. After the men's ice hockey team lost to Boston College on Sunday, social media lit up with Quinnipiac fans berating the players, saying, "Why'd you freeze up? You're crybabies. There's nobody to blame but yourself." Actually, I have no problem blaming the middle-aged men around the country who put enormous pressure on students in their early 20s and then act surprised when they can't live up to the unbelievable expectations. What's worse is even if players turn their phones off, the comments follow them to the classrooms, and students on campus have this same mindset. And this isn't just a Quinnipiac issue. LSU women's basketball forward Angel Reese has become public enemy #1 online, purely because she's cocky, which, if I'm honest, is understandable after winning the national championship. No 21-year-old deserves public ridicule and death threats over a basketball game. Fan culture has become incredibly harmful for college students, and it needs to stop.
When I came onto campus in the fall of 2022, I knew I wanted to be involved in Quinnipiac hockey in some way, whether it was on the team or for an organization. I knew it was what I always wanted to do. My first role in Q30 was beat reporting and covering Quinnipiac women's ice hockey. And then once the season ended, I became a fan and attended every Quinnipiac men's ice hockey postseason game, from Hamden to Lake Placid to Bridgeport to Tampa and the national championship. Last year was incredible, but not as incredible as this year was. In September, I became an intern with ECAC Hockey as a digital media intern, where I would create game highlights, design graphics, and produce a weekly podcast. All of that was great until around March, when my internship and career experience grew to a whole nother level. I was on site for both the men's and women's ECAC championships, both 4+ hour drives from campus. My favorite part was being a sideline reporter for the women's ECAC championships at Colgate University. I met incredible people along the way, just to name a few: Pierre McGuire, legendary coach and hockey broadcaster; Bertie Corbett, the voice of the Boston University Terriers, who I now consider a great friend; and of course Dan Ball, former Quinnipiac and QBSN broadcaster, now the voice of the RPI Engineer hockey teams. Above all, I'd like to thank the ECAC staff, Nick Serbinski, Anna Sniffen, and Commissioner Doug Christensen, for giving me a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do what I love, all while being part of the game that I am in love with. I am forever grateful for this year, and I'm excited for what's next for me in the coming years within the hockey world.
David, after 4 years at Q30, what's your favorite memory here?
Well, this is my final roar on Bobcat Breakdown. Final roar, to be specific. But, coming into this year, obviously, hadn't been able to... coming into Quinnipiac University, I'll start there. As a freshman in 2019, I was unsure how to adjust from high school to college because of the limitless possibilities at Quinnipiac. I figured I'd start out small and join QBSN in 2019, where I started writing and then transitioning to broadcasting before the pandemic. From 2020, 2022, QBSN helped shape me into becoming a better broadcaster, including winning Broadcaster of the Year in 2020, going to Allentown in 2022 for the Midwest Regional. 2023, last year, I expanded into beat reporting for Q30 and being behind the scenes and on camera for Sports Pause and Breakdown, which allowed me to cover the 2023 national champion Quinnipiac men's ice hockey team. Over the last 4 years or so at Quinnipiac University, I've joined countless organizations outside of campus, including the Hyannis Harbor Hawks in 2021 and the Iowa Cubs last year in 2023. During this year, I haven't been as involved in Q30 as I would hope to be because of my new jobs with the Providence Bruins, Northeastern Athletics, and recently being in Omaha last weekend, starting my new job with the Omaha Storm Chasers. QBSN and Q30 have made me a better broadcaster, a better on-air personality, and a behind-the-scenes operator for the last 4.5 years. And I can't express how amazing it's been to work with such, talented individuals who have done and will do such great things in the next few years. I guess my final words as I leave the desk tonight, I've always thought that life's a big adventure of itself, so just make yours the best that it can be.
Thank you so much, David. And, on behalf on, the entire Q30 organization, we want to thank you for everything you've done for the past 5 years for the organization, and as well as all the other seniors and grad students who are leaving this year. Your entire legacy is, just going to be left on forever. I mean, when I first joined Q30, I was a woman, like I said, in my final row, I was a women's beat reporter last year, and you were one of the men's beat reporters, and I always, loved to follow your work. And I remember I was at the Boston College game, that opener, and you and I were both there, and I just remember seeing the work that you were producing, and I was always in awe of it as well. And it's awesome to see that, how far you've come since when I joined Q30 and last year. And thank you again for all you've done for the organization. And like I said, thank you to all the seniors as well.
I don't think there's anything Andrew said that I wouldn't be thinking of. All right, so thank you very much for joining us tonight, and have a good night, everyone.